The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And today I have with me Pastors Bryanna and Brett. And we're going to be talking a little bit about children's ministry and youth ministry, and also about the Ministry Expo that's coming up this Sunday and what that's going to look like, and maybe some opportunities that are coming up as a result of that. So I just want to welcome both of you in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Imagine that. It was almost like command performance, maybe a little bit. But we do have this event coming up that we wanted to talk a little bit about. So we decided to have this Ministry Expo, and this is kind of the culmination of the Shaped for Greatness message series.
Right.
And what we've been talking about with that is, kind of taking a look at how has God positioned us, how has he gifted us, and everything that makes us what we are to be used by the kingdom. And then there's obviously many places inside the church where that can kind of be manifest, and people can take advantage of those opportunities, and also many times outside the church.
Right.
But we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about your ministries, and maybe as we get into it, some of the positions that might be available and how people might be able to fit in with that. So who would like to talk about their ministry first?
I can go first.
All right, so we'll just do this chronologically. The younger kids, we'll talk about theirs first.
That works.
All right, so if you didn't know, kind of introduce, we know who you are, but what you're doing now, and kind of how that role's developing for you.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Brett Dillinger. I'm the children's pastor here. I know Joe said I didn't have to introduce myself, but I'll do it anyways. And so kind of what my role is like a lot of the times if you're here on a Sunday, you'll see me in the central complex with the elementary school kids, or headed over towards the preschool or nursery classrooms later in the service. But basically my role on Sundays is that I help lead the elementary, nursery, and the preschool classes. I spend most of my time with the elementary, but just overseeing the lesson, the small groups, the worship time, help inviting new kids and making new families feel welcome, and help guiding them into like the first time attender process, that type of thing. And then like during the week, just planning for events that are coming up, following up with families, that type of thing.
Now, for a few months now, we've kind of had a new flow and process of how kids get dropped off and where they go. And so can you tell us on a regular Sunday morning, like what that looks like? What does it look like for children check-in? Where do they go? What ages do what? Could you tell a little bit of what a normal Sunday looks like?
Yeah, so it does feel kind of tricky, and it can almost be a little bit intimidating for people if it's their first Sunday. But the reason that is because recently you may have noticed like the glass doors that were installed not too long ago, but we were really just trying to help make kids ministry here at Shepherd secure and keep our children safe, which is one of the things that is a priority for us, really. And so there's those glass doors right off the lobby, but the nursery and the preschool class are just on the other side of those doors. So as far as check-in goes, if your kid's in the nursery, which is birth to 2, the preschool, which is 3 and 4, or the elementary class, which is K through 5, you'll come in the central complex doors that are just off of the lobby. And in there, you'll find 2 kiosks that you can check your kids in, or you can grab a volunteer if you need help checking in, or if you're a first-time attender. And then once you check your kid into the classroom that they're going to be on the kiosks, you have to walk through the central complex and around, and then back down the hallway towards the main lobby. And then the preschool and nursery will be the last 2 classes. But at check-in, you'll get a sticker that prints off for your child, and then a sticker for you that you can hand to a volunteer when you come to pick up your kid. But yeah, everybody checks in right inside those central complex doors, and then you'll navigate towards your classroom. And those glass doors, you can always walk back towards into the lobby through them. You just can't enter in them. Again, security precaution. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, I kind of preface that question with what a normal Sunday looks like, because actually this coming Sunday, we're going to be having the Ministry Expo, and that's going to alter things a little bit for you guys on a regular Sunday morning. Yeah. So we're not quite ready yet to get into what the expo is going to be, but tell us a little bit about this coming Sunday, what childcare is going to look like.
Yeah, so for this coming Sunday at the Sunday of the Ministry Expo, we are going to be doing things a little bit differently, and kids are going to get to stay with their families, which is always a super fun time and may or may not be an interesting challenge for Pastor Rob, but I'm sure he'll navigate it really well. But there won't be drop-off for kids this Sunday. You'll be children, nursery all the way through 5, all the kids that usually are participating in kids ministry in the mornings are going to be staying with their family. So sanctuary may be a little bit packed, a little bit more than usual, but it's always a fun time for kids to be able to see what worship is like in an adult service and also get to worship alongside families in kind of a multi-generational way.
And before the parents get too concerned, one of the reasons we're altering Sunday service is because actually it's going to be an abbreviated message, and this has been guaranteed, we were told.
Right.
But we're having an abbreviated message because of something special that we're going to do during the service. So if you're worried about, I'm going to have my kids with me and they're going to have to sit through however long this sermon's going to be, actually, we have been thinking about that, and it won't be as long as you might have originally assumed. So We're going to circle back to maybe some of those opportunities in children's ministry, but let's check in now with Bryanna and tell us a little bit about what's going on with youth ministry right now.
Yeah, so lots of fun stuff. We're entering summer, which is always just like a super fun time for youth ministry. We have chances just to have more time with the students, pouring into them and discipling them outside of normal weekly rhythms that we have. So something fun we have coming up is we're taking a group of students to Nashville for what's called the Becoming Conference, which is hosted by Trevecca Nazarene University. And it's basically a trip where there's a conference, but there's also a serving opportunity that is with that. So they'll get to go down into like inner city Nashville and serve in various ways. So we're really looking forward to that next month. And we're just continuing to meet weekly on Wednesday nights. A typical Wednesday night kind of just looks like the first half is just hanging out, playing games. The students come, we have snacks, things like that. And it's a chance for our leaders just to build relationships with the students and take time to be intentional with them and, ask them how they're doing, like what's going on in their lives, and just building that trust with them so that when we later on in the evening enter in our small group time with small group leaders, that there's just that seamless transition with talking about our faith and the gospel and things like that. So our number one priority as youth leaders and as a youth ministry is to disciple them and just to do life with our students. So like I said, summer's a great time to do that. We have like a canoeing trip over the summer. We have a picnic coming up. So just lots of fun things just to have fun with the students and just continue to pour into them. And
Now, as far as where you guys are meeting on Wednesday nights, that's kind of evolved over the past few months. I think you were kind of doing split duty between different parts of the room and stuff. Yep. So could you talk a little bit about where we actually are doing the youth stuff now and kind of where different things have moved to?
Yeah. So we are in the Central Complex for the bulk of our time. So on a Wednesday night, we'll have like large group games in there. We'll do like a large message in there. And then we have the old fellowship hall, which is now called the Youth Lounge. That is kind of just like a smaller space that we have like a Nintendo Switch and just couches and stuff. So kids can go in and just hang out and play like board games and things. So that's kind of just like where they hang out at the start. And then obviously the Central Complex, we have students that play basketball, things like that. And then for 2 weeks out of the month, we have small groups. So we kind of just go off. We have designated rooms in the church that we split based off of like middle school and high school and also boys and girls. So our small group leaders will take them and we'll kind of be everywhere throughout the church. And then the last week of the month, we have a typical like message or sermon that I give, and then we have worship. And so we'll all be in the Central Complex on that night. And we also have Fuse, which is the first week of the month. That's usually our events. So for June, coming up in 2 weeks, we have a bonfire. And then for July, we're doing a Survivor-themed day. So we've decided
Nice.
Survivor is going to take more than just 2 hours. So we have
Please tell me there's torches. And
Oh, yeah.
somebody-
we've got flags,
Nice.
bandanas, everything. So that's going to be on a Saturday in July. I believe it's Saturday, July 11th. I'll have to double check on that, but we're just going to have a whole day for them to, have at it on Survivor. So, lots of stuff, lots of fun things coming
Nice.
up.
Have you picked out a Jeff Probst yet, or?
So I think we're all gonna, all the leaders are gonna channel Jeff. We're gonna come
Nice.
dressed up as Jeff, and yeah.
Great.
During our Sunday morning worship services this Sunday, we invite you to be a part of our Ministry Expo. Various ministries of Shepherd will be on display where you can meet others who serve and lead. As we wrap up our Shape for Greatness series, it's the perfect opportunity to consider what ways God may be calling you to serve. Services will start at 9 and 10:45 a.m. in the sanctuary like normal, but at some point during the service, we will transition into the central complex for the Ministry Expo. Our nursery and preschool ministry will still be available as always, but our elementary age kids will be joining us in the sanctuary. We hope to see you this Sunday. Oh, and if you are joining online, don't worry, you won't be left out. We've made special arrangements to continue our live stream from the sanctuary into the central complex so you can join the fun.
All right. Well, we're going to kind of circle back to this coming Sunday and talk a little bit about the Ministry Expo. For those of you, we've talked about it for the past couple Sundays during our worship service, but if you haven't caught that yet, basically we're going to have a time where each of our various ministries throughout the church can share a little bit, kind of in a booth format, and that's going to be set up in the central complex. So partway through the regular Sunday morning service, we're going to kind of transition everyone into the central complex so that they can kind of meet and greet with the people that are going to be in the different ministry areas. Obviously, that's going to be the two of you in a couple of those spots. So if you could, Brett, tell us a little bit about, if I'm looking through my gifts and I'm looking through kind of my whole shape profile, and I think maybe I've got a passion towards kids ministry, what kind of volunteer positions would there be available, and kind of what do those duties look like? What kinds of helps do you need?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe. So there's honestly lots and lots of opportunities for kids ministry, and there are a few more common and traditional roles, but I'm always open to hear new ideas. If there's a new way that you want to make use of your gift and come alongside kids ministry, I would be more than happy to hear about that. Let's definitely talk. But the most common roles that are and opportunities that you have as relating to ShepNaz kids. So like I said earlier in the podcast, we have the elementary class, the nursery, and the preschool. And so there are leaders for each of those groups, and for each of those three tiers, it looks a little bit differently. So if you're a part of the elementary small group leaders group, there's usually about 3 or 4 of them per service for each Sunday, which when you do the math, that ends up being up to 8 people every single Sunday. And so what that would kind of look like would be after the lesson with the elementary school kids, we split up into small groups, which offer a, obviously not exactly one-on-one, but it's usually 5 or 6 kids with one small group leader time that gives us a little bit more close and more intimate connection with these kids, as opposed to just having them all sit there and passively listen. Mm-hmm. It gives a time for volunteers and leaders to get to know these kids better and just talk to them about some of the stuff that happens. I mean, I know they're only in elementary school, but man, you can face some tough times during those years.
Well, you bring up a good point with the small groups. I think you had mentioned in kind of our staff chat a little bit about, even in the past week or so, a question that just popped up.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you'd share that.
Yeah, sure. So we had one of our kids that sometimes this is just the way it goes. You get a question that gets brought up, and me playing the devil's advocate or whatever, I'll try and see what more they might know. And so we were talking about something, and the word holy came up. And so I asked, what do you guys think it means to be holy? And I had this one boy that was talking about what he thought it might be. And then he was like, but like, Pastor Brett, does it mean like godly? Do you think that godly and holy are the same? Like, what's the difference? And does one define the other? Which again, like, and this is something that I want to take the opportunity now to talk to you guys about. Like, there will be kids that will challenge you in your faith. They will ask questions that you're like, I was not prepared to hear that this morning at 9:35 in the morning from this kid.
Please explain the difference between godly and holy.
Yes, it's like, holy cow, I thought we were going to be like, man, my favorite color is yellow. No, like, there's so much more that's going on here. And B, like, the second thing is just that there are going to be times when you're working with kids where you might actually learn something from them. I was trying to remember this example that I was reading in a book yesterday, but there are like plenty of cases where you may ask a kid, I think I remember what it was. So can I share this anecdote really quick?
Sure.
So it was actually on a podcast that I was listening to about a children's pastor was telling this story about how it was one of their services where their kids are in with the adults, and at the start of the service, they just asked this question to the kids, and they were like, so if Jesus came to your house like tonight and was sitting in a room with you and your parents, what would you ask him? Because they were in a series talking about like curious questions about our faith and answering these difficult questions, and it was mostly theological. And so the question was, if Jesus came to your house tonight with your family, what would you ask him? And so they're waiting to hear these theological questions from kids, but if you know kids, that's not always the way it goes. And so they said stuff like, would you stay for dinner? Would you go outside and play bubbles with me? And stuff like that. Nice. And it was like very much the tone was, how can I spend time with you? Mm-hmm. Which is like a deep theological concept, that it's not just about like, our faith isn't just about understanding the facts or the doctrine better, but it's about spending quality time with God, which is like, that's stuff that you can learn on any given Sunday.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Super cool.
All right. So you had mentioned kind of like small group kind of discussion leaders, and also I would assume that you need some help with check-in and things like that. Was there anything else that you want to hit on?
So that was just for elementary. And like I said, things are a little bit different for preschool, for example. Like the preschool leaders, a lot of my time on Sundays is with the elementary, and I usually swing over into the preschool. But the preschool leaders have a little bit more, I don't know, stake in the game isn't a great phrase, but they have a little bit more control about the way the lesson goes. The lesson's still presented in the same way, but they will take initiative in planning activities with the kids and playing games with them. And also throughout elementary, pre-K, and even in the nursery, there's a great emphasis on play, because that's one of the way that kids learn. And so in the preschool class, I think it's super cool that preschool volunteers get to spend time playing with these kids and just talking to them. But yeah, they will get to lead activities and crafts and stuff like that. And then the third primary position and opportunity for you guys today is serving in the nursery, which I don't know how we don't have a line out the door for people that want to serve in the nursery. I guess people just aren't holding babies enough, but try it once and see what happens. But so realistically with the nursery, and things might be changing a little bit further down the line. I mean, I would like to have just even like a 2-minute lesson, for lack of a better word, just to give kids the opportunity to hear something. And it can be a super simple story, maybe not even like a different story each week, but just to say something to kids. Because something that I've learned in my first few months here is that kids are always listening. Even like after church, when I'm like, what did you learn today? And they say, I don't know. Later this week, their parents going to be like, so, Robert told me this morning that's exactly what they were talking about at church. And I'm like, I thought you didn't know, man. But yeah, kids are always listening, and even going all the way back to that young age. And I think we're doing a great disservice if we're always going to say, like they just need to sit there, they just need to eat, or they just need to rest, which they need to do all of those things. But maybe just something really simple in the future. But serving in the nursery is a super awesome opportunity, I think, to just get to love on some of our youngest worshipers in the congregation, because that's what they are. They're, like everyone says, kids are the church of tomorrow, but they're just as much the church of today as we are, right? Yeah. So just spending time with them, caring for them. I mean, evidently in this service, you're going to be changing diapers. That's part of the job. But yeah, I guess that's most of it for the nursery. And then again, like if you have any special giftings that you think we could that you would like to offer in kids ministry at Shepherd, like if you are like Mr. or Mrs. Organizer, or you just love to plan for big things that are coming up, absolutely talk with me, because while I can plan events, okay, if you want to help with that, that
Right.
would be super awesome. And like I said, there's always work to be done, and I would just be super grateful for any way that you want to be a part of it.
Nice. All right. Well, Bryanna, I know that you said that there was quite a bit of things coming up this summer. So, of course, I'm assuming that you have some immediate needs in that regards, but also kind of touch on some of the ongoing needs that you have, if you would.
Yeah. So, in terms of like leading and serving in our ministry, we are like at all times taking in volunteers. There's never going to be a limit, because the truth of the matter is as long as we keep growing, we're going to need volunteers. And our goal is to have at least one volunteer for every 5 students, sometimes even less would be great. But yeah, the number one thing that we look for a volunteer is that they love teenagers and they're willing to just pour into them and build relationships with them and just be there for them. So no matter what specific role you're playing in the ministry, your number one priority is to essentially disciple these students. And on a Wednesday, when you come in, we meet on Wednesday nights. We also meet on Sunday evenings for small groups, but we're taking a break throughout the summer. But on a Wednesday night, like your number one goal is to be communicating with students, hanging out with them. And then when we break off into games and small groups, things like that, that's when the roles become a bit more specific. And I also want to add that there is no age limit on being a youth leader. You don't have to be, like, I think the stereotype or the belief is you have to be young and energetic and crazy and outgoing and love to play games and things. And the truth of the matter is, like, we need everybody, because every student is different. You're going to have some students that are more quiet and shy that don't want to play games. You're going to have students that are crazy, jumping off the walls. Like, there's a wide range of personalities, and we need leaders that reflect that, and also ages too. Like, I think some people just believe the lie, like, I'm too old to serve in youth ministry, and that's not true. Like, literally anybody, like, really the qualification is like, you love Jesus, you love teenagers, and like, you have the time and are willing to dedicate that into pouring into them. And, we have leaders as young as 20 up through 50s. So there is no limit on that. If you have like specific gifts and things that you're interested in, we have different roles like small group leader, assistant small group leader. If that's something that you feel led to do, like you love to lead others and to share the gospel, and we have those roles. We also have, like, if you are one of those people that loves games and is energetic and outgoing, you can be a game leader. So you will lead the games or even come up with games that we can do on Wednesdays. We have a photographer or a media specialist. We take a lot of photos on a Wednesday night, and I'm usually the one doing that. And sometimes it's hard, like trying to lead everybody and corral and, doing all this stuff. And like trying to remember to take photos and videos isn't always easy. So we are actually desperately looking for somebody that is good at photography. Even if you don't have a camera, you can come in and use your phone. We really would love that. Also, somebody that's good at tech, if you like doing tech stuff that can help run our worship services. Also, if you love worship, wanting to pour into our student worship team. We actually have a ton of different job descriptions and things that you could do. So there really is no limit. And like Brett said, if you have an idea of ways that you want to serve with the gifts that you have that you come up with on your own, you can let me know. But at the expo, I will have like pamphlets with the different jobs and the job descriptions. So if any of these sound interesting to you, or if you want to look more, there's a ton that I didn't even cover. But so we would love to have you come serve on the youth ministry team. And it's like, it's not a one size fits all. There's so many ways that you could come in and serve. And
Well, great. I'm thankful for both of you coming in today. I think we've got some wonderful things that are going to be happening as a result of our whole Shaped series and the Ministry Expo that's coming up. Thank you guys for sharing the opportunities that are there. So now you know the faces that you need to be looking for on Sunday in the Central Complex. Also, check out everything that's going on the church website at shepnaz.org, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastors Bryanna and Brett, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.